Hi, my name is Yulia, and hopefully you're excited to see me again. This is the News Brief. Here we catch up with several expertly tailored news stories twice a week that I consider to be the most relevant to today. And then we discuss them together in the comments so you don't have to suffer alone and I don't have to suffer alone. And of course, as per usual, please don't forget to leave your questions, suggestions, comments, literally anything in the comments, and I will be sure to read them because I enjoy hearing from you. Today's topics include: Ukraine rejects any outcome that does not involve NATO. Sakartvelo, or better known to you as Georgia, erupts in a revolution. And Russia, well, it's been a really bad week for Russia, and it's losing its grip worldwide. Let's go. As always, we start with Ukraine, and it's probably the first time in a very long time that we're starting this segment without there being any shelling. And actually, most of the news in this section today are quite positive, so let's find out what they are. A new epic promo video for the rematch between Usyk and Fury has been released. The fight between the boxers will take place on December 21st. If you didn't watch the previous fight, you should watch it because, to be honest, it should have been a knockout. And I believe that a knockout was really stolen from Usyk by the referee, because he really almost finished Tyson Fury. And I'm telling you this as someone who actually quite enjoys boxing, and that's something that you wouldn't know by just looking at me or not knowing a lot of things about me.
I'd like to talk about.
Ah, you're awake, Mr. Fury.
Welcome back.
How was your flight, Rabbit?
Is everything okay, sir?
I say, set people.
Dropped your wallet.
You don't look at me anymore. I miss you.
Do you miss me?
Don't be afraid.
When you sleep at night, ugly man, you're gonna think.
Think of me. I'm gonna punch your face in. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Show me your face. Show me your face.
What are you doing here? Wake up, lad! Dad?
Hey, Tyson. We need to end this.
Aye, I'm gonna end you.
Ukraine also unveiled a domestic version of Lancet and mini Shahed drones, according to Zelensky. Ukraine has publicly showcased its air and ground UAVs, including FPV drones and control systems, which were developed in collaboration with Germany, President Volodymyr Zelensky announced. Today, together with Chancellor Olaf Scholz, we examined drones with smart capabilities and spoke with representatives of manufacturing companies. Thank you to everyone for contributing to this effort and to Germany for its vital support of our defense capabilities. The display marks the first public presentation of these advanced Ukrainian drones, underscoring ongoing international cooperation and strengthening Ukraine's defense technology. And this is not it today from Germany. Germany is really stepping up its efforts, and so is France. But France is not mentioned in this particular episode. But hey, we all remember Macron considering sending troops here. Germany to supply Ukraine with 6 Iris-T systems and Sea King helicopters. At a joint press conference with President Zelensky, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced that Germany will deliver a 6th Iris-T air defense system and Sea King helicopters to Ukraine. Scholz also confirmed that Ukraine will receive additional Patriot and Gepard launchers in December. further bolstering its air defense capabilities, something that we really, really need. Just because today did not start with me talking about all of the victims of the most recent air alert does not mean that nothing has happened. Actually, Nikopol was shelled twice last night. However, in comparison to all other nights, less places in Ukraine have been suffering from Russian attacks yesterday. And that might be because Russia has its hands full with a lot of situations unfolding worldwide, and we'll talk about it when it comes to the Russia section. But for now, the US announced $725 million military aid package for Ukraine. The United States will provide Ukraine with a new $725 million military aid package, the State Department has announced. The package includes additional HIMARS and artillery ammunition, Stinger missiles, drones, anti-personnel mines, anti-tank weapons, and other critical equipment. Also, Zelensky came out and said that Ukraine rejects any scenario that does not involve NATO, and Trump knows that Ukraine will not comply with Russia's ultimatum, according to President Zelensky during the latest press conference. So for all of those of you who are worried that Ukraine will have to surrender just because Trump might want it to, I want to remind you that Trump can cut off aid to Ukraine and he can make our lives very difficult, but he cannot make that decision for us. He cannot sign any capitulation papers, as a lot of people are saying. You know, Trump is going to come to power and he's going to sign the capitulation agreement for Ukraine. Trump is not the president of Ukraine. Again, he can cut off aid, he can put a lot of roadblocks for us, but he cannot decide our fate for us, because the only people who can decide that are Ukrainians, and the only president that can sign any sort of agreements is the Ukrainian president. So as I said, Ukraine rejects alternatives to NATO membership. On the anniversary of the Budapest Memorandum and the start of the NATO ministerial meeting, Ukraine's foreign ministry reaffirmed its stance on security guarantees. In an official statement, the ministry emphasized that full NATO membership is the only effective guarantee of Ukraine's security and the key to deterring further Russian aggression. Given the bitter lessons of the Budapest Memorandum, we will not accept any alternatives, surrogates or substitutes to Ukraine's full NATO membership, the statement declared. And that brings me to something that Zelensky said in the most recent interview that a lot of people have misconstrued because, of course, the most shocking statement is always taken for a headline. He said that he is ready to cede some territory temporarily in exchange for a NATO umbrella. If you watch the full interview, he later says that this is actually something that has never been offered and that he would consider doing that. But it's not that it's just NATO umbrella for the territory that Ukraine holds today. What he was saying is that under our constitution, we cannot accept a partial NATO umbrella or partial NATO membership. The only situation under which he would be willing to do that is if the entirety of the country of Ukraine was offered a NATO membership, and then NATO protection would only extend to the territory that Ukraine holds now. Because if you think about it, then that means that Russia wouldn't be able to attack us because now we would be under NATO protection, and then the rest of the Ukrainian territory can be returned either by military action, having, the territory we hold today be protected by NATO, or by diplomacy. So in essence, what he's trying to say is that if Ukraine is offered the NATO membership and the territory that Ukraine holds today is under NATO protection, then we can talk about freezing the conflict and taking diplomatic routes to return the rest of the territories. But of course, people misconstrued it as if Trump comes to power, Zelensky's ready to give up Ukrainian territory for peace. In fact, I think the headline literally said, Zelensky's ready to cede territory for peace. That's not what he said. Let's maybe please stop making it a habit of legacy media to twist the words of the people they interview, because these types of lies in the headlines that differ significantly from the content are maybe why legacy media is lacking funding these days and really dying and really stepping down in favor of TikTokers, YouTubers, and people on social media who actually deliver quality news. Yeah, maybe that's your problem, legacy media. Another positive update is that Ukraine's Witch of the Konotop theater play goes abroad to enchant Europe. At Kyiv's historic Ivan Franko Theater, the lines for tickets for The Witch of Konotop have been a spectacle in themselves, with fans waiting hours to secure a seat. Tickets for the upcoming European tour? Better hurry up. What began as a local adaptation of a 19th century Ukrainian classic has turned into a cultural phenomenon, captivating younger audiences who have made it a viral sensation with millions of views online. Russia's brutal war has upended countless Ukrainian lives, leaving behind a trail of trauma and displacement. Yet, theater endures as a powerful cultural lifeline, drawing in even the youngest generations. No matter the story unfolding on stage, both the audience and performers bear the weight of this shared awareness. They are living in a country ravaged by war, and it's actually really great that Ukrainian plays are making it worldwide, because here's the thing, you know all about Russia's ballet and theater and culture, because Russia invested a lot of money for all of this ballet, theater, and culture to travel worldwide. You think Ukraine doesn't have any of this because we don't have the resources or the connections to make it worldwide. But if you ever came to visit Ukraine, you would know that actually theater here is thriving, and a lot of people from all generations are loving plays and constantly visiting the theater. In fact, with the full-scale invasion, a lot more Ukrainian plays started coming to stage in theater, and they have garnered a newfound popularity again, and a lot of people are very excited to see their own history and culture on stage. And I really hope that Europeans will be excited to see our history and culture on stage as well. Personally, I really hope that Tiger Catchers or Tiger Tamers by Ivan Bahryany are also going to make it onto a world stage at some point, because this is an amazing play showing Soviet repressions on Ukraine, told through a love story and a story of a single man. So hopefully that's next. This is how we arrive at the worldwide section, and we have a lot of very positive updates here too, and of course, we gotta talk about Georgia. So let's get out the positive updates first, and then we'll deep dive into Georgia and what's happening there. Georgia is actually Sakartvelo, and we're gonna talk about that too. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced on ABC News this week that President Biden has entrusted him with overseeing a substantial increase in military aid to Ukraine. Sullivan emphasized the administration's commitment to ensuring that every dollar of assistance is used effectively. Over the next 50 days of President Biden's term, we will do everything possible to provide Ukraine with the tools it needs to strengthen its position on the battlefield, thereby enhancing its leverage at the negotiating table, Sullivan noted. He also clarified that the transfer of nuclear weapons to Ukraine is not being considered. Of course, it's not being considered. I don't know who on earth thinks that it might be being considered. Maybe some crazy conspiracy theorists believe that Russia is in the right and Ukraine is the cause of potential World War III, not Russia. The EU will provide Ukraine with €1.5 billion per month in 2025 from frozen Russian assets, according to European Council President Antonio Costa. This month, the European Union will allocate an additional €4.2 billion to support Ukraine's budget. Starting next month, we'll provide €1.5 billion monthly for an entire year. These funds come from the frozen Russian assets and can also be used for military purposes. He added that the EU remains committed to pressuring Russia's economy and is already preparing its 15th sanctions package to weaken Russia's capacity to continue the war in Ukraine. Next, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Kyiv after 2.5 years from his last visit. Speaking at Kyiv's Central Station, Scholz announced that Germany would deliver additional arms to Ukraine worth €650 million by the end of December. Germany is Ukraine's stronger supporter in Europe, Scholz stated, emphasizing that Ukraine could count on Germany. We say what we do, and we do what we say, he added. Yeah, except you don't want to give us tourists, so maybe Merz will. And here is where we arrive at Sakartvelo, a country known to you as Georgia, but in reality the name of the country is Sakartvelo and the people who live there are Kartveli. So Georgia erupted in a revolution, and I have seen a lot of worldwide publications saying that protests intensify due to distrust of the government. They're not protests, they're a revolution, and it's not because of the distrust of the government, it's because the Russian-installed puppet regime that Georgians have been protesting against for 2 years now was supposed to lose the election. The ballots don't add up, the exit polls don't add up, nothing adds up, and they're refusing to surrender the ballot counts to other Western countries for independent verification. Why? Because they rigged the election, and the Georgians are not having it. Again, not protests, a revolution, not distrust for the government, but toppling the Russian-installed puppet regime that wants to turn Georgia into the next Russia. Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili declared unwavering support for the country's constitution during a special briefing amidst ongoing protests in Tbilisi that have now spread to a lot of other cities in Georgia, including Batumi. We are on the side of the Constitution in this protest. We are defending the Constitution and the future of this country, Zurabishvili stated, accusing the ruling party, Georgian Dream, of repeatedly violating constitutional principles. The president criticized the recent decision to delay Georgia's European integration until 2028, labeling it as unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the protests escalated as police and special forces used water cannons and began detaining demonstrators near the parliament in Tbilisi. Local media report that around 200 protesters have been detained over the past 4 days. The situation remains tense, with additional demonstrations taking place in Batumi and support rallies occurring across Europe and the United States, including cities like Berlin, Munich, Prague, and Florence. Zurabishvili, refusing to leave office, has called the recent parliamentary elections fraudulent and declared the new parliament illegitimate. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze, however, has announced the appointment of 12 new ministers and stated that Zurabishvili will be required to resign following the upcoming presidential elections scheduled for December 14th. Tensions continue to rise as the government and protesters stand at odds over the nation's political future. So this is actually very important because this is where Russia is losing its political grip on Georgia. Russia likely assumed that the protests in Georgia were going to subside after 24, 48, maybe 72 hours because, that's what happened in Minsk in 2020 when the protesters started dispersing after the government started using force. However, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is the largest amount of foreign fighters in Ukraine since 2014 are Georgian. Georgian people have been standing with us all throughout the Revolution of Dignity known to you as Maidan, all throughout Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2014 and in 2022. And they know what it's like when Russia is trying to take over your government. They also know that the Russian puppet regime that is doing basically what Yanukovych did in Ukraine in 2014, which is decided not to come closer to the EU and further our ties with Russia that we have been separating from. They know that this is the beginning of the end, and I think they're not going to let it happen. There is a lot of force being used on the protesters in Georgia, and that is only making the Georgian protests stronger, and it's only making people more pissed off. 200,000 people emerged on the streets of Tbilisi as of yesterday, and they show no signs of giving up until the government resigns. Georgian Prime Minister ready to sign EU accession talks immediately. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze stated that he would sign the start of EU accession talks even today if given the opportunity. He dismissed claims that Georgian authorities oppose European integration, calling them distortions. Kobakidze also accused EU Ambassador Pavel Gerchinsky of spreading disinformation. "We're not halting the European integration process. On the contrary, we're intensifying efforts to ensure Georgia's EU accession by 2030, he emphasized. So the interesting thing is that the party has been incredibly close to Russia. They have been making a lot of decisions that would put Georgia closer to Russia and further away from the EU. They have also been trying to put forth laws that would basically censor a lot of the population and put a lot of supervision on the population. So the people are not buying whatever it is that he's saying. They want Georgian Dream out. They did not vote for it, and they believe that the election is severely rigged. They don't want this party in power, no matter what it is that they say. And I really hope that they get rid of it, because this party has shown time and time and again that it will lie to its people and then do whatever it is that they think is going to put them closer to Russia. Ukraine condemned excessive force against Georgian protesters. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry criticized the heavy-handed response to the pro-European protests in Georgia and denounced Tbilisi's use of the Ukrainian scenario rhetoric to discourage demonstrations against democratic backsliding. The Georgian government should stop scaring its citizens with a mythical Ukrainian scenario while effectively implementing the Belarusian scenario in practice, the ministry stated. Also, one of the things is that Georgian people are not buying it because, again, once they started protesting against the government because the government has shown what it actually wants to do, the government took it back and decided to lie to its citizens saying, oh, no, we actually are pro-European integration. Hey, guys. Georgians don't want you. And also, Georgians and Ukrainians have been together in this, as in the people, since the beginning. In 2008, when Russia invaded Georgia, the first president that visited Georgia, hours after it all escalated, was Yushchenko, and he brought humanitarian aid. And while other post-Soviet satellite countries were deciding whether to help Georgia and piss off Russia or not, Ukrainian president was already on the spot asking them what it is that they might need militarily that we can give them. Georgians have been through this. They know what it is like when Russia takes over. They know it, and they don't want it. They're also tired of this party. It's not just this decision. It's a lot of other decisions they have been implementing. It's not just about the EU. This party has run its course, and no one wants them there, and that's how they voted. But for some reason, their vote didn't count. And speaking of Russia, the culprit, here is where we arrive at the Russia section. And this week, Russia is having a really, really bad week. I mean, hey, have you heard about what's happening in Syria and Russia's military issues? We just discussed Georgia and Russia's issues with the information sphere influence on it. Also, Romania didn't turn out the way that Russia planned either. It's losing its grip on the world, and all the news coming out of it outside of that are quite bad for Russia, but good for everyone else. So I feel like we need circus music in the background when I read whatever it is that's about to unleash on us from Russia. Fact: Russia has the largest, longest-running bioweapons program, active since 1920 and violating the 1972 Biological Weapons Convention. Their biolab accusations likely distract from their own operations, because they always do mirroring and projection.
Biolabs, echoes in the shadows. Biolabs, secrets in the shadows. Under Moscow skies, new structures arise. Encircling old labs where the plague was disguised. Like Vozrozhdenia Island, bioweapons spawn. Pathogens buried, threats linger on. 79 leaks in Sverdlovsk streets. 68 lives lost. Silence meets Yeltsin pushed to speak. The truth unveiled, breaking chains of silence. Secrets prevail. Mirror propaganda, they lie and they blame. Saying others' design was part of their game. Claiming HIV was made in the West, but it's smoke and mirrors. They distort and jest. They are hiding labs across distant lands. Africa is the stage where their story expands. Ukraine's the blame in their latest scheme. Fake labs they claim, a Delulu dream. Now they say they've moved west to Poland's home, or hidden in the Baltics. The story's retold. Propaganda spreads. Soldiers turn to machines, zombie war machines. The Delulu dreams, they play the victim while they load the dice. An aggressor disguised, hiding in plain sight. From the steps to the scenes, we unveil the plot. Hollow for more, cause we've got a lot. Biolabs, echoes in the shadows. Biolabs, secrets in the shallows.
Well, because if you know anything about Russia, they always use projection as their tactic. If they're telling you that you're a Nazi, that actually means that they're Nazis. If they're telling you that you have a biolab, that means they have a biolab. So on and so forth. You know, they're never saying to anyone that other countries are honest, good, and fantastic countries. You know why? Because that just simply doesn't reflect what's happening in their country. Kremlin pushes governors to promote a victory image in Ukraine war, according to Kommersant. The Kremlin has reportedly directed governors to shape a narrative of victory in the war with Ukraine, according to sources cited by Kommersant. This guidance was a key focus at a seminar for vice governors held at Sinyezh Management Workshop in the Moscow region. The delusion is really strong. The presidential administration aims to portray the war's outcomes, such as the denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine and the annexation of 4 regions, as a victory. However, they anticipate dissatisfaction from both angry patriots and liberals. Instead, the Kremlin plans to rely on the calm majority, who may view these results positively, urging officials to maintain and grow this support base. Governors were also instructed to address challenges faced by returning combatants, many of whom might struggle to find comparable salaries in civilian life, or their limbs. They might struggle to find their limbs. Concerns were raised that these individuals could gravitate towards protest movements or criminal activities. Yeah, a lot of them have been doing that, and also because people in Russia absolutely do not respect their veterans. Not that there is anything to respect them for, but we have seen countless videos coming up from Russia where the veterans are being treated like utter garbage. I mean, they are, but in their own country, Z-patriots, aren't they supposed to be put on a pedestal, not spit on? I don't know. Russia constructs third air defense tower near Crimean Bridge. Why would they do that? The war is going so well for them. Research indicates that Russia is building a third air defense tower near the Crimean Bridge, with its interior recorded in late November 2024. The first two towers, equipped with Panzer S-1M systems, were identified in late September 2024. Each structure comprises an internal tower with stairs and an external metal frame featuring a platform of air defense installations. I mean, why would Russia need this if things are going so well for Russia? Also, speaking of things going well for Russia, and I mean it sarcastically, there is a certain billionaire who loves chilling in Dubai who actually talked about Russia's plans for the future and accidentally or purposely ended up spilling the beans and talking about Russia's true intentions. So as you might know, Trump's new administration aide to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, proposed the negotiations for peace, right? The infamous Trump's 24-hour plan of ending the war in Ukraine. So, I mean, the Kremlin and the Kremlin's mouthpieces have a lot to say about it, and I think this one is my favorite. Before I read it to you, I will tell you that the oligarch who said this is the person who was instrumental in starting the 2014 invasion of Ukraine, and also a person who likely decides which people fall out of windows. He is the insider. He's part of Putin's oligarchy. He's the person very close to the president. So when he says something, he's really talking on behalf of Putin. Kellogg comes to Moscow with his plan. We take it and then tell him to screw himself because we don't like any of it. That would be the whole negotiation, Malafeyev said in an interview at a luxury resort in Dubai. For the talks to be constructive, we need to talk not about the future of Ukraine, but about the future of Europe and the world. Konstantin Malafeyev, a Russian oligarch who was instrumental in starting the war in Ukraine in 2014, basically confirmed that what Putin really wants is a new division of the world. He told the Financial Times that President Vladimir Putin was likely to reject a peace plan proposal by Trump's recently nominated special envoy for the conflict, Keith Kellogg. Ukraine would be only part of the global pie he wants to grab. Malafeyev said that Trump could only end the conflict if he reversed Washington's decision on the use of the advanced long-range weapons and removed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky from office, then agreed to meet Putin and discuss all the issues of the global order at the highest level. He said Moscow would only see it as a lasting condition for peace if Trump was willing to discuss other global flashpoints, including the wars in the Middle East and Russia's burgeoning alliance with China, and a U.S. acknowledgement that Ukraine is part of the Kremlin's core interests. We want a long-term peace, some sort of a general agreement about the global order, Malafeyev said. Trump wants to go down in history. He'll be 80 soon. He's a grandfather. Putin's not 50 anymore either. It'll be the legacy they both leave us with. Malafeyev is Putin's mouth. He says directly, we want the part of the world as it was during the times of the USSR. Even Ukraine is not enough for us. And in fact, he's literally saying that they want a new world order. And this is something Ukrainians have been telling you all along. It's not just about Ukraine. Putin is saying directly, I don't want peace talks. I don't want to end it at Ukraine. I want this, this, and that. And I want to reshape how the world works. And I want Trump to do this for me. Yeah, well, good luck with that, buddy. Anyways, on this super positive note of you finally finding out the core of Russia and hopefully taking off your rose-colored glasses, that's all I have for you for today. If you enjoyed this video, please, please, please like it and send it to a friend because we've been having a very hard time here with the briefs, getting them out into the world, and very few people are finding news about Ukraine, so please, please help them spread. Also, if you enjoyed this video, of course, don't forget to sign up for the gaze and turn on your notifications so you know when the next one comes out and you can see my pretty face more often. And, of course, don't forget to comment your questions, suggestions, opinions, and constructive criticism. As I always say, I read all of them and I enjoy knowing what you guys think because that helps me formulate next episodes. Till next time.